Help support AMTV by becoming a patron, an AMTV staff member, and following us over on Twitter.
Our story begins in the year 1910 in the county of Sussex in England. The wealthier people of that day...
This is a photo of a movie on VHS, specifically The Toy Shop. This forgotten oddity from 1996 was one of my favourite tapes growing up. But what's this on the spine? Channel 5? Oh right, the broadcaster here in the UK. I didn't realise they put out VHS tapes under their own name, especially obscure animated films for kids. That logo's pretty odd too. Seems like something from the 80s rather than the 90s. You may have already sussed it, but this Channel 5 is not the one we're all familiar with.
It's 3 months late, but today Channel 5 completed its countdown, or rather count up, to launch.
Welcome. It's 6 o'clock on Sunday, March the 30th, and this is 5.
A special song by the Spice Girls heralded the new channel. Young and colourful, they sum up its image. Channel 5 calls it modern mainstream.
This is Channel 5. The iconic launch from 1997 is burned into millions of British brains up and down the country. With the Spice Girls kicking things off, the UK's 5th terrestrial channel hoped to make quite an impact on the television scene. But believe it or not, that's not the Channel 5 we're going to be discussing today. For there was in fact this other Channel 5, one that came about more than a decade before the broadcaster, and one that was quite the pioneer in some ways in the field of home video. This is a look at the other Channel 5, the one that you may not remember, or may not have even heard of. Philips launched their VCR systems here in the UK in the first half of the 70s, before being followed by Sony's Betamax.
Get a Sony Betamax video recorder and automatically videotape that show while you're doing something else and watch it anytime you want. Sony Betamax. It could change your whole way of life.
And the eventual winner of the format war, VHS, developed initially by JVC.
Choose a JVC video home system and you'll get a picture as true and as reliable as JVC technology can make it. Whether you've recorded it from television or shot it yourself with the JVC color camera. Ask your dealer to let you compare the JVC VHS with other systems. You'll JVC the difference.
The war was long and protracted, and for consumers initially, there was quite the realm of choice when it came to what format they would eventually end up swearing allegiance to. Would it be VHS, or Beta, or Video 2000 perhaps, or even the fancy new Laserdisc?
This machine is capable of playing a video disc. This is the first of the genre, made by Philips.
Whilst competitors did their darndest to maintain market share, by the mid-80s it was very clear that VHS was indeed the dominant and favourite format of the British public, even if it wasn't the best in a technical field. Winners and losers aside though, the vast majority of Brits were in fact renting their tapes, rather than purchasing them outright. Why? Well, the cost of tapes back in the early 80s was bloody expensive. The idea of paying 50, 60, even £70 in some cases for a video cassette seems outrageous these days, but back then it was the harsh reality. Rental retailers were kept happy, of course. For just a couple of pounds, audiences could come in, rent a popular movie to watch at home, before returning it a few days later. And up until the mid-80s, it seemed that that status quo wouldn't be shifting anytime soon. The first major shift would come with Woolworths. No, I'm not joking.
Christmas is a gift at Woolworths. Christmas starts right here. All the gifts you know they love, gifts that show you care.
The beloved Woolies chain of shops wanted to expand their video offerings, and were the main chain of stores that played a part in launching the Video Collection.
Welcome to the Video Collection. Top quality films on top quality tape at one unbelievable price. The Video Collection brings you Hollywood's greatest stars in their finest films.
This range covered older films, as well as a range of titles for children, with the appealing tagline, "A video for the price of a blank tape." Considering most releases in the Video Collection came in at under £10 each, this was seen as something as a potential game changer for the time. Why rent a tape for your kids when for a few pounds more you could just own it outright and let them watch it again and again?
For children, there's pages and pages of favourite characters to choose from in the new catalogue. Brand new friends or old chums, they're all in the Video Collection. Cuddle up with a Care Bear.
This marked the range as being one of the first to launch purely with the sell-through model in mind. Sell-through relates to customers buying tapes outright as opposed to renting them, and at this point in the UK, the video collection stood alone in terms of how it priced its tapes, as the high cost of VHS from the bigger studios lent more towards the rental market.
In recent years, we became aware that people would like to own their own copies of films. So what happened after about a year, 18 months of the film being out for video rental, it was repackaged and made available for sale.
The video collection would prove to be so popular when it launched that several Woolworths shops simply did not have the stock to meet the demand. Supposedly, additional video production plants in Germany had to be roped in to help build up the stock. The following year, in 1986, presumably from seeing the success of the video collection, a joint venture was undertaken by Heron Communications and Polygram Video. The result would be, you guessed it, Channel 5 Video. This new label would release a whole plethora of titles across a range of genres. There were classic films, like the video collection, but also music releases, like Pink Floyd's The Wall, and many a children's favourite, including Noddy, Pob and Friends, and The Amazing Adventures of Morph. Channel 5 would also helm the first ever home video release of various series from Gerry Anderson, but I'll let Parker give you all the info.
Yes, my ladies and gentlemen, not only Thunderbirds are go, but the indestructible Captain Scarlet, sensational Stingray, the Little Nipper June 90, and the terrific Terror Oaks are all available on Channel 5 Video. Of course, they're not all as handsome as me.
Like the video collection, Channel 5 proved to be a success, with many British homes containing a tape or two bearing that chevron-based logo. The Channel 5 catalogue continued to expand throughout 1987 and 1988, and by the dawn of 1989, one major film was making waves not only at the box office and award ceremonies, but looked set to truly shake up the home video market here in the UK.
Now, as you've probably noticed, there have been some remarkable developments in the video business lately. 3 years ago, for instance, a firm called the Video Collection began selling classic films at the knockdown price of £9.99. Today, they can be bought for only £4.99. Of course, more recent pictures have always been much more expensive, costing, if not an arm and a leg, then at least a finger and a toe, 50 to 70 quid perhaps. But now that too is changing with the release of the Oscar-winning Rain Man, either on rental or for sale at £14.99.
Rain Man was originally released at the end of 1988. Starring Tom Cruise and Dustin Hoffman in an Oscar-winning performance, the film was a major hit, grossing well over $350 million and scooping the Academy Award for Best Picture. Naturally, when it came to its home video release in 1989, demand was extremely high.
I'm sure that it will be a success. Our research shows us that the demand for the sell-through copies will probably exceed 500,000 between now and Christmas.
Even by this point, most major new releases from major Hollywood studios would still cost somewhere between £30 at a minimum to purchase outright, with renting still being the cheaper and most sought-after option. However, Rain Man would aim to break this tradition. Rather than release the title knowing that rentals would be the most popular form of engagement, it was decided that it would hit shop shelves for the then low price of £14.99. This move to go straight to sell-through as opposed to rental retailers first was potentially a gamble. If it didn't pay off, the other Hollywood studios may have thought twice about following the same path.
I really can't see many of our members buying Rain Man when they can rent it here for between £2 and £3 a copy. And I think Warner's, in the long term, will see that the number of films that they sell will be for the rental market rather than the sell-through market.
Interestingly, in this clip from the BBC, the then head of Channel 5 Video, Peter Smith, is interviewed, and he gives some insights into the video market as a whole and his thoughts on Rain Man itself.
There is bound to be some element of the population who don't want to buy Rain Man and simply want to rent it for £2. Having said that, there is going to be a large proportion of people, having seen £800,000 of marketing money spent, who want to buy it. So it's becoming increasingly imperative that the rental chains become involved in selling videos, not only renting them, if they're to maintain their share of the profits of the video industry. The best-selling sell-through titles have been the ones that can stand rewatchability, let's say, titles that can be watched time and time again. Rain Man doesn't fall into that category.
Perhaps unsurprisingly, Rain Man was a huge success when it did launch on home video, and sure enough, future Hollywood releases would gradually start following a similar model of going straight to sell-through, aiming to bypass the rental market entirely. Rentals were still incredibly popular, however, and would continue to be so throughout the 1990s, though the amount of people buying their tapes outright would continuously rise.
Wow!
The favourite family video store from over there is now over here.
For Channel 5 Video, who had been one of the forerunners of selling tapes at a cheap cost, did this mark the beginning of the end? The label would continue releasing titles into 1990 and 1991, but then Polygram, one of the two companies that launched Channel 5 Video, would purchase Heron Communications' stake in the business and would ultimately do away with the Channel 5 name and logo, rebranding it to simply be the UK division of Polygram Video. So after a few successful years, and for it being a large part of the UK video sell-through scene, Channel 5 Video was no more. Except it wasn't. Oddly, a few years down the road, around the mid-90s, Polygram decided that the Channel 5 Video name and brand would be resurrected, this time to represent the children's range of one of their budget video imprints, Forefront Video. Now solely attributed to children's titles, this is where my first experience of Channel 5 comes in, with the aforementioned Toy Shop tape. Interestingly, presumably in an effort to save money, when starting up a late 90s Channel 5 tape, you'd be greeted with the same introduction that they had years prior. The only major change had been the music, the synth tone abandoned for a more soothing lullaby-esque tune. This wonderfully dated introduction would remain unchanged as we entered the 21st century, though it's not completely confirmed when it last appeared on a released VHS tape. The label itself, in name and logo only, would continue to appear on packaging as late as 2003. Here's an example of a kid's double pack, where we can see a slight variation of the Channel 5 chevron, though it's noted that the tape does not contain the Channel 5 video sequence. Also, complete tangent, but one of these shows is Christopher Crocodile, and let me tell you, I loved this weird little program.
If there's trouble down in Muddy Town, you know who you should call. There's a cool reptile with crocodile style who's always on the ball. Christopher, the crocodile.
This is DVD.
Around the same time, particularly with the rise of the DVD format, Channel 5 Video was wound down once again, only this time, it wouldn't make another return. I find it fascinating that the decision was taken to initially resurrect the Channel 5 name around the same time that Channel 5, the television broadcaster, was gearing up to be launched. I could completely imagine that some parents looking for tapes to buy for their kids may have seen the logo and wrongly assumed that the brand new television channel was issuing out these tapes themselves. For those who may have remembered the brand originally from the mid-80s, there may have been some mild surprise, a shock that the iconic chevron-based logo was still going strong decades later. Though it has been defunct for the past 20 years, Channel 5 Video continues to occupy a very weird yet endearing place in the hearts of those who remember it.
Sell-through started off as a range issue with back catalogue titles, older titles, on Channel 5, people like Video Collection, and really they were issuing old black and white films generally at a very cheap price. Once the market was established, now we have major studios who are actually selling videos to the public, direct to the public, as a first step rather than going through rental outlets.
If you grew up in the mid to late 80s, there's a real strong chance that the first VHS tape you may have ever owned could have well been a Channel 5 tape. Hell, you may have even just been spooked by the logo animation. For me, my association comes from the later era, when Channel 5 was solely catering for the children's market. And through those weird and wonderful animations I used to sit and rewind again and again, it would be the Channel 5 logo that would greet me each and every time. A sure sign that no matter what was on the tape, It was going to be a good one. Thank you to our patrons for helping to support the show, and a special thank you to Macra, Shaun Knock, Dord Khan, Ethan Carberry-Holt, Liam Domain, AJ Mac 200017, Deck, Jen, Traffy, Evanhart 41 Radio, Tim Ripley, Mr. Eurovision 1986, Marnanel Thurman, John Wakefield, 40-something Manchild, Jerry Ralph, John McLeod, James Wallace, Ben, Kat Hegarty, Stephen Oliver, Tegan, Shadow Fiend 180X, Swan Ronson, Adam Gamer, Fonzie Daz, Seraphic Euphoria, John, Matthew Elliff, and Pigeon's House, our AMTV staff members.